Hi guys, crawling solution here. In this video, I'm gonna show you guys how you can install mongodb, which is a database that we use to store mainly semi-structured and unstructured data. Now, what is the semi-structured? Email, JSON, and what is the unstructured? Well, it's basically a GPS signal or video or image. Those kind of stuff is unstructured, and MongoDB is typically a NoSQL database. That means it's not specifically used for relational database. For the data we have here, we can basically just store it inside our Mongo database and not anywhere else, because then we can access the database and get the data out and use it for our purposes later on. But for now, at the moment, the MongoDB, our database, will be working as a data lake, and it will store everything that we just scrape back to the database, back to the data lake. And then if you guys want to do some analytics, or if you guys want to do some computing with it, or just want to transfer it into other database, you can do that quite easily, because you can query out from the data lake and then you can transfer into your relation database with using SQL. So let's just go ahead and do that. So as for our previous video, I already showed you guys how you use conda and use it to work as our environments for Python on the Windows, because as you know, Windows Python is suck. Yeah, don't use it. If you want to do more coding, I basically recommend you to use Ubuntu or other OS system like Mac OS or Linux or stuff like that. But let's go ahead and do it. Now I already did that, which is this conda. Go ahead and search that out. Which is conda install MongoDB. Now I already did that, and if you haven't installed it yet, then you should go ahead and do it. Yeah. The new package will be installed, but my current version is a little bit behind, but that's alright. I'm not gonna do any installing next. So you guys gonna go ahead and install it, and after you install it, you need to activate the Mongo. So how do you do that? Well, if you already installed the conda environment, you can go to the user, administrator, or what kind of user you're using, and you go to the conda, the package, and go to the MongoDB package. Now mine is for the version 4.0.3. You can be for 6 point or 7 point, depend on how far they update it. So I'm just go ahead and go into library and go into bin. Now I'm go ahead and open this program up, which is mongo.exe. Now you can see here it's running, and it's running on port 27017. So that's perfectly fine. Now that's what pretty much like what we expected. So let's go ahead and do a little bit querying with our database. Now I go ahead and type in the Mongo, which we use to access the Mongo shell, And then let's just go ahead and use our database. Let's just go ahead and call it as our scraper data. You can see here that it said that we switch to our database scraper data, but what behind this use method is that if it cannot find any database that currently on our system, it basically create another one and it will switch to that database and do something with it. As you can see here, they haven't shown it on this Mongo shell, but it already create our a database for us. Now, what the next thing that you're gonna need is that you're gonna need a PyMongo. You're gonna need to use Python and connect to the Mongo database. Now let's go ahead and do some installing PyMongo. I already installed it, so if you guys haven't installed it, you should install it already. Now let's go ahead to our program right here. Okay, so go ahead and use the import PyMongo, and I'm gonna connect it to a client. Now I shouldn't import the entire library, but only partial of it, which is from PyMongo. I'm going to go ahead and import the Mongo client. This will work as a bridge for us to connect to our database. And our database will be Mongo client.localhost. This shouldn't be a database, it should just be a con, which is connection for short. Now you're gonna need a port in here, and you're gonna need some specific number if you want to use authentication for the Mongo database. For now, I'm just using it on my local host, but if you want to use it remotely, you might need to configure it a little bit, like a username, in case, for example, you got hacked. You need that to be specific. So now I already connect to my server, so let's go ahead and go to our database. Now our DB will be con dot, just like the one that we create on our shell. Now you can do this manually or automatically on your program, because it just go ahead and create the database for us. So after you have database, you need a collection. What is the collection? It's basically like tables in our relational database, but in NoSQL we call it as collection. If you already know about a little bit about the database one, you will know what I'm talking about here. So we have now, we want a collection. So how do we do it? We'll just go ahead and type the collection we want. Let's just say that in my scraper data, I scrape bedandbump. So I just say that my collection will be B&B. And that's it. That is how you create a database and a table inside the Mongo database. Now, what else do we have to do? Well, now in our table at the moment, we don't have to do some defining schema, we don't have to do some define database type, because in NoSQL that is the fun part. You just get the raw data, you put inside database, you just leave it there, and if you want to access to get it later on, you can do that quite easily. Now that is very good part. about our Mongo database. It's basically work like a bag that contains all the garbage stuff, and you are the garbage collector. You take the valuable stuff from the garbage, and then you put it into somewhere more safe and more secure. So let's go ahead. I have a dictionary over here, and let's just say that I have data, and this will be our baby name. His name is gonna be let's see, John Cena. yeah, why not? Okay. Now I'm go ahead and do it and insert this data into our database. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Insert one. Now, if this is gonna be a list of the baby name, like so, you can use insert many. This is gonna insert many of the data over here. So go ahead and run it. Perfectly fine. Our code worked absolutely okay. Let's go ahead and go back to our shell. Alright, you want to access a database, right? Alright, after you switch to the database, then you just need to access our connection. Go ahead and dot bnb b, and we're gonna use the function called fan. Oh, swap data not defined. Well, that a little bit. Oh, my bad, guys. So after you go to the database, what you need is that the database variable will always be the DB name, and it's not the name of the database. So that's different from Python, because from Python you need the name of the database and then the name collection put together, and you can access the data. But in our shell we can only use the database and work as the name of the database that you use it. So go ahead and type bnb, do some fan, gonna fan all of them. bnb not defined. Oh, that's weird. bnb not defined. Let me just go ahead and missing name at the dot operator. Well, that's a little bit unfortunate. Well, guys, if you cannot access to the Mongo shell, because I have a little bit problem with it, because I did not remember well how to use the Mongo shell and access the result and the collection that they're having. But right now, the lucky thing is you can do it with Python, because on here, if we go ahead and now our database will be work as a cursor, and the funny thing about it is that inside cursor you can do a for loop for it. So let's just say let's say for data, each data in our con.fan. Oh, sorry, it's not con.fan. Actually, our database.fan, and we're gonna print each data right here. Go ahead and run it. See, now we get it. Now we have it. Now we have it right here. So basically, Mongo shell basically doesn't work exactly well when we type our query. probably we got some problem with our query, and then we cannot find it. So I just go ahead and use the Python from there on out. So now you have the idea about to create a database and how to do some query with it, how to insert data. A little bit later on, I will show you guys how you can apply it inside your Python scrapy, and then you're gonna inject your data that you scrape through that data lake, through that mongodb, and then the fun is begin from there. Alright, so it's gonna take a little bit to me to set up the environment and do some initial thing first. So welcome back to our spider. Now this spider is just like the previous one, which is Bed Bath and Beyond. Now we already scraped this one, but we use Excel file, pandas, and we append our JSON data inside of it, and then we export it later. But this website is massive in terms of data, and that method is not working very well. So that is why MongoDB come in hand. Now I'm gonna use just like the last one, is that I'm gonna use the collection. We're gonna connect to our Mongo database, and then inside our process item, instead of appending, just keep appending in our data frame, which will increase the memory of our memory core, our RAM. That is not a very good solution. So from now I'm gonna go ahead and import Mongo client from our PyMongo, and in this I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Oh wait a minute, this one is very necessary, because this one get all the names from our CSV file, and this one should be leave just as that. So when the spider open, we will make our connection, and it will connect our local host. So now this value is basically exists inside the function only, and we want the entire spider to be used, so on, and we just go ahead and make it as one of the value of our spider. So spider.com will be our connection to the Mongo database. Now what should we do with the rest? Well, basically you can see here that our data frame here is a list, and we use this to append the data that we get from the response. You can see here that spider dot under case and just appended item. Now we just go ahead and delete it, or I go ahead and comment it, and you guys can open it up later on if you want to have a quick sense of how it works. I'll go ahead and comment it, and in here, instead of append it inside our list of our spider, we're gonna use the MongoDB and just go ahead and insert it. Now wait for a second, we haven't connected the database yet. So I just say that spider.db will be spider.com and it will be just like the rest, just like the one that we use. It will also, I just figure out the reason that I cannot access the collection of the shell, and the reason is that, as you can see here, in the Mongo database, it will recognize this underscore as one of the element which will, as one of the collection. This n will basically work as some kind of argument, and is not the value, is not the way to define the value, so it will get an error. So basically I create another collection which is bb, and is on our scrapy data.db. So let's go ahead and use it. Just copy the entire name right here and just paste it right there. Gone. Scrapy data.db. Now you want to need to use this inside inside a quote, so that you can easily recognize what you're doing with the database. So our spider.db will be point to the database and point to the collection. Now let's go ahead and do some inserting with it. Go ahead and insert one, and it will be our item. Now why is it? Because our item had already been a JSON format. So insert one will only accept the JSON format, and after we have inserted, after we have crawled the JSON from the response, it will be a JSON. So we just go ahead and immediately insert it inside our collection, and instead of returning item, I just go ahead and say that it's okay for, or let's just say that inserted item to be item. Say, let's just see what kind of item we have. We have name, we have name. All right, we have, I basically don't know what the item is gonna be, so I'm just go ahead and take one of the UI example. So let's go ahead and re-scrape our spider right here. Scrapy crawl BNB. Yeah, we have something wrong. So what it will do is that, now you can, this part you don't have to do it because this part is optional. But if you want to be absolutely clear of what you have inserted and what you haven't, or if you want your data to be absolutely correct, you can use some of the value inside the item and you can return it later on. Or if you want to have some logging, if you're afraid that you don't have sufficient data which the web provides you, you can still do this one, return, and it will go to the log, and then you can figure out what exactly happened. But in this video, we just go ahead and return the item, so that we can figure out what item has been crawled. Now this is gonna be a little bit long because item is gonna be a huge. So if you don't want to do this, you can forget an item and just return inserted item. I'll just go ahead and return the item. Now for close spider, in the last video I told you guys that when we close it, it will turn our spider list of JSON into a data frame, and then it will turn to Excel file. But in this video, well, we don't need close spider. Why? Because after we inserted the data inside a database, it will become a part of the database. If you want to export the Excel file, you can go to the database, you can do some query, do some finding, aggregation, do some inserting, deleting, duplication, a lot of stuff that you can do with a database, and then you can export it into Excel file. It will be a lot easier and it will be a lot efficient to do that. So in this video, I'm just going ahead and show you that we just inserting the item inside our database. So I'm going ahead and run it, recrawl our database again, and let's see the magic begin. I'm gonna take a couple of seconds for it to set this. So basically, inside our Conda environment, it will not work if you run it in a normal privileges, and you have to run it with administration privileges. And let's go ahead and run our spider again. Also, I just figured out that it will be better if you go ahead and insert the registry, return the registry number that you just scrape. So when you go ahead and query in some database, or you got some error when you do some logging and you just find out this registry haven't been inserted yet, you go ahead and go into the database, do some query with, figure out why. So let's go back to our prompt. Now I'm going ahead and recopy the path. Go ahead and point it to it. Scrapy crawl BNB. Well, there you go. Absolutely perfect. Now let's go ahead and do the inserting yourself. But if you want to find the number, the document number that you just get, now let's just go ahead and go back to our Mongo shell again. Now go ahead and type Mongo. We connect our shell. Use, let's see, what is this? Scraper data. Go to the BB. db.bb fan. There we go. That's a whole lot of it. Now if you want to find the number of document that you have just been inserted, you go ahead and use bb.count. We go to 50,000. That's really fast because scrapy is crazy fast. It's scraping like it's faster like a bullet. So do all the inserting yourself. Now later on you might need to do some removing of duplication, or you can do some removing of unused data, or later on if you want you can transfer it into some relational database, establishing table, schema, type database, and then it will be more meaningful data to see rather than using Mongo and just inserting unstructured data. Don't get me wrong, but Mongo database is absolutely perfect, especially when you do some scraping and you need to scrape a lot of data, semi-structured data. You need to scrape lots and lots of data like that, and you don't have time to establishing table. You just need to put it there, establishing table on, and then do some pipeline transferring from Mongo to your relational database. Absolutely perfect, fine. If you have the storage capability, then you can do that way. So that's pretty neat. So I'll be go ahead and put this code on the Git later on, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.